Welcome to the Midsters Podcast, your podcast for inspiration on being bold and saying yes to making the most of your midlife.
Well, I love talking about vitality and I love talking about longevity. So now we're going to talk a little bit about one versus the other. Or are they the same or are they different? To me, they're different.
They can be the same.
They can be the same, but I think of longevity as the line we draw. And I think about vitality, the color that fills it in.
I like that.
I mean, that's what I think of, right? It's how you're living it. What are your thoughts about longevity? Because we hear about it all the time now on how to actually live longer.
Right.
Maybe not better.
Well, and better is the key. Right?
Yes.
You know, it's funny because when you mentioned that you wanted to talk about this, I played pickleball last week. You all know by now that I love pickleball. I played pickleball last week, and I was sitting on the bleachers waiting for I played an indoor court. I was waiting for the next court to open up, and I was chatting with one of the fellow players there. And, you know, she just kind of looked over at all these people. This is a 55 and older drop-in league, but people are more like 60s and 70s. And she said, you know, everybody here is probably going to live forever. And I said, I'm not sure they're going to live forever, but they're certainly going to be playing pickleball forever because nobody shows any signs. I mean, the oldest person out there is 89.
That's incredible.
And she is out there on the court. She's actually a pretty good player.
Kudos.
And so, you know, I sort of instinctively think like I would rather be someone who plays pickleball till my last day than someone who lives longer than that but is confined to a bed.
Right.
So that's the difference for me between longevity and vitality.
Yeah. And listening to you and the word vitality, and of course, I think they say any sport that has a ball involved apparently does help lengthen your life, like the longevity of it.
Really?
It's about the ball. It's about balance. It's about eye-hand coordination. Versus just being in a gym.
Well, thank God I'm playing pickleball.
Like tennis, you know, golf, all of those help. But listening to you about when you mentioned vitality and you mentioned pickleball, my mind goes there too with energy. But the other thing with vitality, the other side of it is curiosity. Doesn't have to be high energy movement to have a vital life. It also can be those quieter things whether it's curiosity in learning a new language or learning how to do photography or cooking lessons. It's being present. It's making every day count. And I think that's what vitality is, because we could live till 90 or 95, but if it's not a life of curiosity, of purpose, of energy, then, I mean, I know people that get tired of living because they can't they can't have that vitality or that energy.
You know, it's and I'm not being facetious about this at all, but I've had this conversation with my daughter. I don't need to live forever. I don't want to be confined to a bed. I don't want to be an invalid. And, you know, I have said to her, like, if I get to a certain age in good health and having lived a good life, and I think I am living a very good life, if the wheels start to fall off the bus, don't feel like you need to keep the bus moving. Like if there's a time where there's a decision that has to be made, not even like necessarily a pull the plug kind of decision, right, but like treatment versus no treatment. I'm going to be okay with no treatment because once I lose that vitality, I'm ready to move on.
Right.
Part of that is I'm not afraid of dying, right? I mean, I don't know what happens next. I believe something does, but I'm not afraid of it.
Right.
And so I want this life to be as full as possible. If it's going to be empty, I don't need to stay in it.
That's a great analogy about the bus and the wheels. And I feel the same way. And I think I've gotten to thinking like that with age and actually with living a vital life so far. When I was younger, there was a fear of death, more of a fear of missing out on seeing my children hit certain marks in their life, as well as like things that I still wanted to do. this has been a perfect time during midlife to be able to do a lot. And so I do feel like I am living my life, not watching it. I'm not a bystander, nor are you. And I think that when we think about vitality, we're not thinking of those bystanders. Bystanders, yes.
Bystanders.
As you know, all of you, I'm a little challenged by by pronunciation of words sometimes. Just go back and listen to some podcasts. You'll get it. Anyway, but yeah, I think that we are ready to move on when we have like savored, right? Vitality is savoring life, not just checking off the days because we're checking off the days. I've never had a number in mind. Have you?
Kind of, sort of, but it's only because, like, in my experience or observation of the world, most of the older people in my life, my grandparents, my parents, not my dad because he died really, really young,
Mm-hmm.
they hit a certain age and then they began to decline, and then it became a struggle. I don't know that that will happen to me at
Right.
that age. So I kind of have that age in the back. I'm not going to say what it is. I have that age in the back of my head, but really it's that point of diminishing returns
Mm,
when I can't be vital anymore. When I
right.
can't, when my ability to live into my life's purpose becomes too hampered,
Yeah.
then I'm willing to, I'm not someone who would ever, just to be clear, I'm not condoning anything like suicide. I'm not someone who would ever consider that. But I am saying that there's a point where if I had a choice to make about prolonging a life that is painful and difficult and not productive
Right.
versus accepting death, I would accept death.
Yeah. There's a lot of science and data gathering, and the medical community focuses a lot on longevity, like eating right, how much exercise, protein, all those things. And I will say a lot of those things that add years to your life actually add some vitality as well, because it is exercise, it is walking, it is eating healthy, all those things. Not that eating healthy makes you live in a more I guess a way of vitality. But in general, so much focus has been on longevity, and I don't really see a lot of focus on vitality. I think we'll get there. I think our generation is definitely making the most or trying to make the most of their days. And kudos to the younger and social media. They're posting a lot. Social media definitely has two sides, but when you see people living, it is infectious. Like, you want to get out there and you want to experience and you want to do things. You're not in your, home without any of that. I mean, I know that you and I both like a little bit of social media, and we know that there's a better way to live and a lot of things to do and dive into. But I hope that the science community talks a lot more about living a life of vitality. There's probably so much that I don't even know about that. And I'm sure that sparking energy, not just your mindset or your activity, but also that curiosity of doing more and expanding, I guess your mind and elevating you to a different place, not just with exercise.
Well, and I will say I got to compliment you because we've had a podcast about fitness in midlife, and you sort of made the point that your goal is to be fit for purpose, which isn't really something I had thought about till you brought it up. So I learned something from that, which I've really thought about. Like,
Yeah.
I do want to be fit for purpose. I do want to be able, well into my life, to be able to do the kinds of physical things that life requires. I don't want to be bedridden. I don't want to be someone who can't lift my grocery bags.
Right.
I want to be fit for purpose. The other piece of that, though, is really trying to be mentally fit for purpose as well, not just physically.
Right.
And to that end, I've taken up a lot of things. I mean, every morning I'm a little obsessive, okay? But every morning I do Wordle, I do the New York Times Spelling Bee, I do New York Times Connections, I do my Italian lessons on Duolingo. That's all brain food. That's all
Yes.
brain exercise, which I just think is really important. It's as important as eating right, as exercising,
Mhm.
as, having social interactions that are stimulating and soul satisfying,
Yeah.
developing my faith and my spiritual sense. Those are all the things that I think help keep me feeling like my life is vital.
I think that I think you make a good point there. And I think that brain health is super important and not just physical health. More attention is on that now in the science community because of dementia and Alzheimer's. And there are definitely things that we can do. I mean, a lot of it's genetic, but you can push it off 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And by the time you live long enough, maybe, maybe you weren't affected by it, right? So I think that that is super important. I want to talk a little bit about positive energy. And because when I think of vitality, I think of if I had to pick a color, vitality was a color. It'd be like bright pink or yellow or orange. I mean, it would not be brown. It
Or
would
gray.
not, or
Not
gray.
gray.
It would not. So if I would add a color, and I hadn't really thought about it until sitting here on this podcast, it would be something bright like that. And I can't think of a bright color without thinking of positivity. And I think that there is a connection to the mindset of positivity and vitality. And there is a large population that unfortunately has maybe some depression or low mood or isolation. And it might be hard for them. And I know we haven't discussed this topic before, but I am going to ask you a question and I'm going to think about my own answer to it because I haven't. But for listeners, for people that fit into that spot where it's hard for them just to get up in the morning and get through their day, can you think of anything that might help an individual get past that hump of maybe a low mood or something like that to tap into something that might help them feel some vitality, some positive energy? Is there anything you can think of? I mean, that's a hard one.
That's a
Probably
really hard
takes
question.
an expert.
It takes, I
But
think, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, because
But
the
is there
first thing that comes to mind is, there are, depression is a real illness. It's
It
a real
is.
illness, and it may require treatment. Um, Even, you say low mood. To me, that's kind of like a variant of depression, where, an anti-anxiety or an antidepressive medication or
Yeah.
weekly visits to a therapist might be what that person needs.
Yeah.
But if it's just more of a sort of a situational low mood, I think it's really good to go out and be with people. And interestingly enough, I think I would say not necessarily with people who know you. Because I think sometimes, and we've talked about this in an earlier podcast, people have expectations of you that you have to sort of break through.
Right.
If you're mentally depleted, that's doubly hard to do.
Mhm.
But volunteering somewhere, engaging in activities with kids, pets,
I think
animals.
pets are a great one.
I mean, if you don't have a pet, you should have a pet,
Mhm.
right? Even if it's just a small little creature, something that you can interact with, I think that can help a lot.
Yeah, I think it would go to like nurturing yourself first to try and get into a spot. Um, and of course, seeking help. Like a lot of us don't do that because we don't want to identify, ourselves as needing something like that. But the things for me, and I've been through periods of time that were very stressful, that I had a low mood because of something going on. We all do. We all live life, and we don't get to just pick the good. I mean, it comes with all spectrums, right? I like fixing like a hot cup of tea and just allowing myself to sulk for a minute if I need to. And then I love thinking about the things that I'm grateful for. And that kind of helps change the mindset. And I don't think you can walk in nature, find a park, go by a stream, anything, listening to the birds, sitting outside with that hot cup of tea, that doesn't make you feel alive. Nature makes me feel alive because it's a living thing. So those are some things I think that I would start with. And I think living with vitality can be as simple. It doesn't have to be being able to run or jump or, climb Mount Everest. It can be those little bitty things as well. It's still vitality.
Right. I mean, I think
doing.
Right. I mean, one variant of that is people who like to read, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if your goal is to read every classic novel that was ever written, or every fantasy novel that was ever written, or as many books as you possibly can, or all biographies,
Right.
that's a purpose that motivates you, that you enjoy, that you get something out of. Even though reading is a sedentary activity, that doesn't mean it's not vital.
Right.
That it doesn't contribute to your own vitality, because it's really that sense of purpose. I told you this
Well, it
before.
awakens your mind too, whether it's romance or mystery or
Right. I told you this story before we started this podcast, but I have an uncle by marriage, my dad's sister's husband, who lived to be 104. And he was vital in the sense of he was physically active, he was mentally aware, he was emotionally regulated, all the way up until about 103, about 9 months or so before he died.
incredible.
And it is incredible. But it was because he had a purpose. And his purpose is very sad, actually. My cousin, who was their only child, died I think he was like 40 when he passed away. And my uncle and my aunt were devastated. And my uncle, beginning after my cousin died, every single day, and I am not exaggerating, people, every single day, he got his lawn chair, he got a book, and he walked the mile to the cemetery where my cousin was buried, and he put the lawn chair on the grave, and he opened up the book and he read aloud.
So endearing.
And he did it every day. He would go in the rain, he would go in the wintertime. That was his purpose, was to maintain that love and connection with his son, which, I mean, it could seem strange to people. I totally got it and understood it. And what it did for him was it was a physical activity. It was an emotional activity. It was an intellectual activity. It prolonged his life in a positive way so that he lived a good existence,
Right.
until shortly before he passed away.
That's both heartbreaking and inspiring. Talk about dedication.
As the best things in humanity often are, right?
It's true.
I
And he
mean,
didn't want to let go.
he didn't want to let go.
Yeah, he didn't want to let go. And I think that he had both. So he had longevity and he had vitality. And vitality probably was a huge, big piece on how he was able to live a long life of 103. Right?
And I think a point there that's worth sort of pausing on is vitality doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Right. So I think for me, if it were a color, it wouldn't necessarily, although I do think yellow and orange are kind of good ways to describe, but it's more the intensity of the color than the color itself.
Oh, yeah.
That I think speaks to vitality. And so it's not always happy to have, your purpose may be something that is challenging emotionally for you, but it's still what drives you. And
Yeah.
that's what gives you the sort of purpose to keep on living.
It's what fills it in.
Yeah.
It's what fills in your days. Yeah, because we all have elements of sadness, all of that. Sadness,
And
happiness.
life isn't always happy.
No, it's not. It's not. But vitality, you're right. It's not just positive. It is with purpose.
It can
It
be
is with
bittersweet.
curiosity.
Yes.
It can be bittersweet, but it's making the best of you can of those days. It's the color, and it is the energy to me. I mean, I do look at vitality as an energy as well.
Yeah.
It can be different spectrums of energy, but it's not being a bystander. It's just not.
Right. It's making the best of every day and the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So that you feel like you're still actually, I'm going to rephrase that. I think it's really this. Oh, I'm thinking as we're talking, I think it's the capacity to continue growing in your life. When you get to the point that you can no longer grow because you're mentally incapacitated or too physically incapacitated to really get anything further, that's when you lose vitality.
It's the
But
curiosity to being able to do that.
yeah, and just the ability,
Yeah.
really, like if you're still growing, that's why I said the example of someone who likes to read. If that is still helping you grow mentally and develop a better, perspective on life and on yourself, that's vitality.
It's true. And, there's not an age. I will say that we're talking about longevity and vitality, but I know people in their 20s and 30s that don't have a lot of vitality. They just kind of go from day to day. It's autopilot. It's, there's not the vitality there. So I think there's a mindset to it as well. Yeah, I don't think it's about age. I mean, we're talking about age and longevity, but if we were just to take vitality itself, it's all age spectrum. So I think everybody could live a life with more vitality if they can think about how to do that. And again, it takes practice, I think, and it takes dedication to do that, and it takes being present and active in your own life.
It also takes an awareness of the transitions that cause the things that give your life that vitality to change. And specifically in midlife, you go from being a married couple, focused probably on your career, definitely on your relationship, right? Then it shifts and your focus becomes your children, raising them, and all the things we do, right, for our kids. That actually gives life a lot of vitality. But then you become an empty nester. The kids move on. That's a place where I think a lot of people stumble because they can't quite get their footing and figure out what to do next. If you look at that as an opportunity instead of a loss, I think you could use that as a place to sort of elevate and sort of amplify the vitality of your life by finding things that really mean something to you,
right,
that cause you to grow in ways that you really want to, as opposed to doing things that you kind of had to do earlier in life. And then it alters again when you retire, and then it alters again in later life when you start to become physically disabled.
Yeah.
But at each point, if you stop and reflect on, this is a transition point. Just because I can't do what I did before, I can't be vital in the ways I was before, doesn't mean I can't be vital.
Right.
It means I just need to shift my focus.
Yeah. And find things, and have cheerleaders. I will say I am self-directed in finding my own happiness in many ways, and being vital. And I love trying new things and adventurous and all of that. But I also, not that I do it for them, but I also have a husband and children and 2 boys that are huge cheerleaders. And if you hear them speak, have you ever listened to your kids or your husband speak about you, and not in front of you, but you hear it? Wow, my boys and my husband are like, you're not going to believe what my wife or my mom's doing now, And there is that piece that I do it for myself, but I love the fact that I do it for them in a way, because proud's not the word. They love that I love life. It brings them joy, right? As does when we were parents. We loved seeing that in our children. We loved what brought life to them and what they cherished and what they enjoyed. I think of your son and his music. I know that you see so much vitality in him, and it makes you so proud and so happy that he has that. So it's almost like the reverse. So it does go both ways.
It comes back around.
It does. And it's not a reason, but it is something that I take in consideration when I'm thinking about doing something. I'm like, well, first I mitigate risk. I don't know if that's good or bad, but sometimes I do. So that's my first thing that I look at. And then I'll put myself out to do something that'll make me feel alive and well, and that I'll enjoy. And like you were talking about, it's like growth, like wanting to do something to move on, to learn, and to enjoy. And when you can't do that anymore, you're right. The vitality isn't there. Not the same way.
Right. I mean, ideally, we all have both longevity and vitality.
Yes.
So that's my wish for everyone.
Well, I think you get left listeners some good nuggets on how to do that. And yes, if somebody is struggling and can't find vitality in their own life, seek help, number one, and then all the other suggestions that we both made.
Get a dog.
And yes. Okay, Leslie, and you're such a dog person. Go for it. Give that plug.
Get a dog. Go to the shelter. Adopt a dog.
No, pets. Pets are a great way.
Yeah.
I mean, because it does give you purpose.
It does.
And they make you smile. And they love on you. No, I have my pet at home too.
I love her.
You do, and she loves you. Anything else you want to leave with listeners?
I would like to leave listeners with thoughts that Elizabeth may have or any nuggets she may have on this conversation.
As someone that's just entering their midlife, I do find myself a
Depleted?
bit jaded sometimes, I guess. And I guess for listeners that are in their midlife trying to rediscover what comes next, how do you get excited about that sort of thing and not sometimes feel like your best years are sometimes behind you?
That's an excellent question. And definitely I experienced that very thought, right? Because we tend to always look at youth as being like the key. Like when you're young, that's what we think of vitality, right? When you're young, like your whole life is ahead of you. You've got longevity. It's like shifting your focus or shifting your internal conversation from what's lacking to what's there. Is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? And one way of doing that is look out at role models around you. Look at older people that you know, that you admire, that are doing things. And, we often look past older people. We just kind of ignore that they're even there. When in fact, if we take the time to stop and watch them and talk to them, then we can realize, well, wait a minute, this person is 89 years old and still playing pickleball. That's pretty impressive. What got her there? And if I'm 40, I have 49 more years where I can still be doing that. So a lot of it is shifting our focus from, what we're no longer anymore, which is young, to all the possibilities that exist by the examples that we see in the older people around us. Take note of them. Pay attention to them. Don't just walk past them and notice the gray hair and tune out. Do not tune me out. I think that's a piece of it.
I think it's a mindset shift of not thinking of youth as loss, like the greatest is behind me. And I think, like Leslie Ann said, it really is looking into the future, all those things that you haven't been able to do. So most people have a bucket list of places they want to see. I think it's important to have a bucket list of what you want to do, how you want to feel, how you want to engage in those days and that life. Because honestly, when you're young, and it's a wonderful time, but you're basically living day to day, in my opinion, and you're just getting through it. And even like parenting, you're enjoying pieces of it, but wow, later on, you get to reclaim so much time and energy again for yourself. And that is exciting.
So before we sign off, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, please keep in mind that you can also watch us. There's a video version on YouTube, and we'd love it if you'd go there and click subscribe.